Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Charlotte's Contractor Development Program's monthly webinar. This evening, we are excited to have a special guest to discuss something that is always an opportunity for growth for entrepreneurs, which is managing your back office. So often contractors are really awesome at what they do out in the trades and with their teams out working and building things, but sometimes the back office can be complicated and it may be challenging to manage. So we're excited to bring this topic to you all. Based on the survey results from last year, this was something a lot of folks were really interested in. So we are recording this session and it will be available in the library once we complete today's session. We'd like to thank Whitney White, and I'll give a quick overview about Whitney. Whitney is the owner and founder of Whitney White Accounting and Notary Services. She graduated from Claflin University in South Carolina with a bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in accounting. And she also finished her Master of Accountancy from Gardner-Webb University. Whitney has over 15 years of corporate accounting and experience in manufacturing, architectural, engineering, and construction industries. And she opened up her own firm in 2018 with the sole purpose and vision to help small businesses understand their financial health. Having a small boutique style firm allows her to create intimate business relationships where she can educate and work to meet annual goals. The firm has experience managing law firms, consulting firms, medical practices, churches, car dealerships, restaurants, salons, barbershops, nonprofits, and more. Whitney is the proud mother of an 11-year-old son, and in her free time, she's either a sports mom or on the weekends, and she enjoys good flights to warm destinations, and she loves to binge watch a series and work in the community. So we're excited to introduce you to Whitney White, and she's going to share some really insightful information for you to help you manage your back office and your business. And with that, I'll hand it off to Whitney.
Happy Thursday, everyone. So I'm going to turn off my camera because my screen is up top, so I don't want to look like I'm looking everywhere. And I'll share my screen. And we just ask that you hold questions to the end so we can make sure that we get through the presentation and the demo within a timely manner. Okay, so I'll be talking about managing your firm's finances. So what we'll be discussing tonight is your filing status, making sure you understand that, your cash flow, expense management, financial reporting, and regulatory compliance. So the importance of having an accounting or a bookkeeping system. So having an accounting bookkeeping system in place is a fundamental part of your office function. Maintaining accurate records and financials gives the business a clear financial picture of their financial health. Oftentimes, clients that come to me have nothing in place. So in the event of an audit, tax time, none of this is in place. So this is very important for taxes, audits, and just day-to-day compliance. Filing status. So making sure you understand this for your back office so that you understand how payroll works, how tax filing works. So if you're a sole proprietor, you file by April 15th. This means that you'll be filing the Schedule C. So we won't get into many of the tax forms, but understanding the tax filing date so that the business can prevent either penalties or extensions. Again, when I work with clients, I always work with them to file by the due date so that you can have more money in your pocket instead of having to pay penalty fees. So we have sole proprietors, we have your single member LLCs, dual member LLCs, your S corporations, and your C corporations. Cash flow. So understanding your profit margins, basically making sure your company is profitable. So if you need to set multiplier, if you are a business that is in construction, you're buying cost of goods, making sure you're marking things up. Knowing if you need to have a break even. Securing a line of credit or having a savings in the event of an emergency or for tax purposes. Obtaining the software to manage your finances, such as QuickBooks, Wave, Expensify. Billing in a timely manner, and this is something that a lot of clients fail to do also. So if you don't bill in a timely manner, you don't get paid in a timely manner. So this falls into collections, which also delays if you have payroll, if you have expenses that need to go out. Expense management. So managing your expenses daily, monthly allows you to take advantage of tax write-offs. It also gives you a clear picture of the company's profitability. It allows you to review overhead costs. If you have any COGS, which is your cost of goods, this will allow you to contact vendors to either get a lower price and also know how to mark up these rates, similar to what we were just talking about on the previous slide. So when you do expense management and you actually have this in a system such as QuickBooks, and we'll do a demo shortly, this will allow you to match. Well, QuickBooks gives you the capability to upload all of your expenses and also your deposits. So you're able to match them. You're also able to see, again, if something is overpriced, if you're working with a vendor, and if you need to mark it down. But this also feeds into your financials, which we'll get to in a little bit, so that you can see if your company is profitable, which is a huge thing for companies because you do want to be profitable. Financial reporting. So keeping an accurate record of your cash and expenses allows you to generate accurate financials to support your firm in any decision making. So that is in the event of audits, again, taxes, if you need a loan. This is vital in understanding your firm's financial health and timely tax filing. So different financial reporting that comes out of any financial system is your income statement and profit and loss, which are the same. So this right here basically looks at your total income for the month minus your total expenses. So this goes back and basically consolidates kind of your cash flow, looking at how much cash is coming in, then looking at the expenses. So putting those two together, you're able to see if the company is profitable. So if you have more expenses than you have income, your company is at a loss. If you have more income than expenses, your company is at a profit. Your balance sheet, this looks at your assets, looks at the equity and investments from the company. Your AR billing summary. This looks at what the company has billed. So this can be consolidated for year to date if you have anything outstanding. And this allows the company to have a clear picture of how to approach collections as well. AP summary. So if you are actually entering in accounts payable billing or like your invoices, this will allow the company to see exactly what is outstanding. So if you're getting a tax bill, if you're getting a bill from, say, Granger, if you're working on projects, this will allow you to see, okay, this is outstanding. So this will run it monthly, or you can run it for year to date as well. Your statement of cash flow looks at the company's cash flow, either month to date, year to date. So compliance. So regulatory compliance ensures your firm complies with relevant laws, regulations, and audits. Maintaining a software can ensure this. So again, this goes back to the different software. So making sure, you have your information housed. Some individuals like to do old school accounting, use Excel, pen and paper. But actually having a software to house all this information in the event of anything that can happen is always good because everything stays consistent. So using QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, Wave, and there's many, many more. But having an accurate system that is up to date monthly and actually reconciled actually helps you in the event and actually, allows you to remain compliant with your business. Important compliance filing. So you have your monthly and quarterly sales tax if you are actually selling a product. Payroll taxes. So if you are an S corp, if you are a corporation, making sure that you stay on top of your payroll tax filings so that you are not penalized. Annual tax filings. That is for all of those categories that we originally talked about at the beginning of the presentation. An annual business license renewal. So if you do not do any of these, there will be a penalty that the company does face. So the services that I provide, and then we'll go to the demo, is bookkeeping cleanup. So a lot of times clients come to me with no structure. So we offer services where we work with clients to either go back a couple months or years to actually do cleanup. So we do monthly cleanup, bookkeeping services, sales tax, tax preparation for individuals, S Corp, single member LLC, dual members, S Corp, and corporation. So I'm going to pause this so that we can go to the QuickBooks and I can walk you through how QuickBooks looks.
While you're doing that, I think we had, I just want to clarify. So if you're a contractor providing services, would they be responsible for monthly sales tax reporting? Or is that just for products?
Just for products. So if they only sales tax is if they are selling goods.
Okay. Thank you. And a question on the chat, which software program is the best to use for construction industry or government funded projects which require additional administrative oversight?
So I think that goes to your preference. I am a fan of QuickBooks because QuickBooks allows you to, it gives you an audit log. So that allows you to separate duties, and I can show you that. It also allows you to track projects. So this will allow you to do classifications, projects. Let me go ahead and log in so I can show you exactly what it is. But I think it's based on preference and exactly how much detail and analytics you need. Let me stop sharing.
Another question from the chat was, if we offer a turnkey construction service with products, labor, and materials, do we just add the tax to our quotes to the customer?
Yes. And then that would actually feed through to, basically, you will be reimbursing the state for the sales tax. So you can feed that in on your invoice.
Okay, thank you. Great questions. Be sure to use the chat for any questions that you have during the presentation. So Whitney was going over some critical filings that are important for your annual reporting, as well as I think she did a great overview of the different types of financial statements. And as you kind of grow in your business, you may see the need for the need to get like those audited like financial statements, because some of the like county projects require that for you to do different things. I think I remember the Beyond CLT grant also required a certain level of financial audited statements. So you want to make sure that you have these documents so that when those opportunities come up for financing, you'll be able to apply with those different documents. We can't see your screen yet if you're trying to share. Just
No,
so
not yet.
Okay.
I was waiting for you to finish.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go of how it looks and then kind of put in some test transactions for you to see how it flows. So as far as the capabilities, one of the things that I do love about QuickBooks, and I always tell people I do not get paid for QuickBooks, and I probably should get commissioned because I always brag about some of the capabilities. So based on the users that you have. So where's my manage users? And because I'm in a dummy copy, it won't allow me to do it. So you would have the capability to look at your managed users. And you can add up to 10 people, depending on your subscription, and then also add 2 accountants. Also, it gives you the capability to do an audit log. So if you are concerned about something not being done, when it was done, you're able to go back, or if you delete something and you're like, oh my God, I deleted it and I need to know, how to fix it. This gives you a clear picture of everything that was done, and you can go back, you can do a custom sort to see exactly what was done. You can filter by your users, again, month or event. One of the other capabilities you all were asking as far as like construction projects, things like that. So when you're actually setting up your QuickBooks, again, depending on your subscription. So QuickBooks does give you several subscription levels. And the Plus will allow you to do project-based accounting. So this will allow you to enter like a PO, enter a project name, track it, track locations, things like that. So this will allow you to add assignments. So basically, this is just kind of looking at the overview of all the things that you can do. So basically, it's going to allow you to add under your expenses. It's going to allow you to track it. And then you can track the expenses either, by items. You can add sales tax as well in here. And then QuickBooks will also file that sales tax for you. So what I would do just to put in like a dummy expense so that we can see how it flows, so that you can see how everything works. So it won't allow me to be great. So I'm just going to create a account so that we can. And as I'm doing this, if you have questions, let me know.
There was a question from Ada in the chat. She's asking about submitting bids, and some of the projects add a sales tax form that they have to complete. So she asked, are you able to provide an example of a small project where the contractor is buying the materials and they give a lump sum price, and how would that work?
So the contractor gives a lump sum price.
So yeah, so when they're submitting their bid, they do a lump sum price, including labor and materials with markup with the sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
So would that be all the line items that they would include in that?
So yes.
Okay.
But they can list out the price of the materials marked up. But if it is a lump sum price, it doesn't have to be, because they're marking it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is technically a lump sum project, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So from a business perspective, you don't want to necessarily share the markup, but in order to get that sales tax form, they would need to do that. What you wouldn't have to do the sales tax form until you actually submit the pay app, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so once you win the project, then you submit the sales tax form.
Correct.
I don't know if that confused you more or you got that. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, so when you're submitting the bid, you just do the lump sum with all those different elements. And then when you do the pay app, you do the different affidavits and sales tax forms.
Because you may end up quoting at a lower rate for your material. So that will end up being a larger profit for the company. So that's
Mhm.
something that's internal versus something that needs to be discussed with who you're getting the job from.
Yep, great
And it
point.
looks like my QuickBooks is not going to allow me. So what I'm just going to do, I'm going to see if my internet is running slow. So it's not going to allow me to create a new chart of accounts. So I'm just going to stop this because I don't want to waste time. But basically what I was trying to do is show you how the income flows in and how an expense flows in so that you can see how the financials actually work together. But I can actually send some templates out if needed so that that's helpful as well. Or invoices, how they need to look if there's a question about those as well.
I have a question. Good evening. If you, oh, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. If you have like whatever the level one basic QuickBooks option is and you decide to upgrade to the project, are you able to retrofit some of the projects that you're doing in the basic when you upgrade to the one that includes projects?
You should be able to.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Well, okay, since we had some technical issues there, I just want to open it up to any specific questions, and we can just make this a Q&A session. I know I was a little worried about the internet earlier from all the weather stuff. So like Whitney mentioned earlier, there are a lot of things related to the back office that keep you in compliance with yours for your own business purposes, with the tax, with your taxes, and also with your clients. And you want to make sure that your budget is what you is when you compare your budget to your actuals, that you actually made the profit that you thought you were supposed to make. So as we talk a lot about bidding and estimating and things like that, we always want to make sure that as you're bidding, you're making sure that you have profit margins and everything built into that so that you're accruing that you are not necessarily accruing, but that you are gaining reserves and that you are making enough profit to sustain the business as projects end. So what are some of the like major documents that contractors should focus on an annual basis? Like we're at the end of the year, how can they approach annual budgeting to help them to make sure that their business is set up for success in the coming months?
So just making sure again that your books are up to date. So that's going to be step one, is making sure that you have January through September completed for your books. As far as contracts, again, like Zon was saying, when you do that, in order for it to feed into your budgets, you need to have an accurate profit and loss statement. That's going to be for your taxes. That's going to be for loans. That's going to be for contracts so that they can see a clear picture if your business is profitable. Having an accurate balance sheet. That's going to see also the investment power for the company and seeing how much you're actually able to store in your bank account. So a lot of companies, again, they like to say, I don't want to show a profit, or a lot of them, their bank account runs in the red. Those financials run with them for a long time. It's okay if it's like, occasionally, but actually seeing that on your financials and actually trying to win bids or, get loans, things like that, that's definitely critical. Actually producing a budget versus actual. So this is something that you can do manually. You can also do this in QuickBooks. So you can run this every month. So again, this is helpful for those in construction when you're looking at your cost of goods. So it's actually to see if you are actually spending too much on your goods. Even for people who are not in construction and buying goods, people in professional services, we spend a lot of expenses as well. So this allows us to see what we're spending too much on. So it can be subscriptions if we need to decrease labor, or if we need to project a higher rate for next year because cost of living is going up. So this allows you to look at all of that. So you can bid for a job for 2023 or 2024, but what's going to happen next year? So you need to project for those. So again, looking at all of those financials consolidated allows you to see the bigger picture when it comes down to your budgets, and also comes down to your bids as well.
Thank you for that. Like, so I'm going to ask some questions I may or may not know the answers to, because I got a B. My first class I dropped in college was financial accounting. Okay, so at the end of each month, we should zero out which two statements? Our assets and liabilities should zero out at the end of each month?
So your assets and liabilities should equal each other. Well,
each other.
Your assets, liabilities, those are added together, should equal your equity. But
Okay.
basically nothing should zero out. So basically when you look at your profit and loss, that should total what is in your bank account. Not total what's in your bank account, but those expenses should equate to what is in your account.
So revenue comes in, expenses
Correct.
go out, and then you're left with the document is the profit and loss statement.
Correct. Or your income statement. Yes.
Okay. So you have the revenue coming in from, and that data is feeding in from your bank accounts, your deposits,
Correct.
those transactions. If you have point of sale transactions on your Square apps or however you're getting paid, all of that is coming in. And then in Wave or QuickBooks, however you're doing this, your expenses that are paid out of those same accounts, they go out in and out, just like your personal bank account. And basically what you're left with is your profit and loss for that period. And that's going to be important to help you understand, like Whitney mentioned before, your cash flow, and also look at when you're not getting paid on time. So something she mentioned is something that we also were challenged with not getting invoices out on time. I'll ask a quick poll question. What day are most pay apps due in construction? What day of the month? Anybody want to put it in the chat or shout it out? Not everybody at once.
I don't know.
Really? Yes, you do. Take a guess. There we go. 15.
Yeah, I was gonna say the 15th sounds about right.
Okay, so the 15th, usually the pay apps are due to the GC that you're working on a job with. So they need it by the 15th or the second Friday so that they can review all of the different pay apps that are coming from every contractor on that job. They don't submit it for payment at that time. They have to get everything aggregated and compiled so that they can submit one giant pay app to the owner, right? So that's what the GC is doing on that job, or the CM at risk, depending on how the project is set up. So you as a trade partner or contractor may submit your pay application. And I know a lot of folks wanted some more training on how to do AIA pay application. So that's something that's coming. But there's a pay application. Usually there are affidavits, there are sales tax documents like Ada mentioned. And so all of that is required. So it's not just your invoice. It is the whole set of documents, or your invoice will be rejected. This is a City of Charlotte program, and with the City of Charlotte, in addition to those documents, you are required to submit a CBI Form 6, which indicates your inclusion of minority contractors, minority women and small business contractors on your project, and how you paid them, suppliers or contractors. And that is also due with your invoice, or they can reject the pay app. So you have a lot of things that need to get collected just on one job. So I just listed about 5 documents that are due on one project, right? So creating a system that is going to help you be effective, where you can coordinate and manage that in a library is going to be really critical to making sure that you stay organized. So when you look at that monthly, one of the things that, like Whitney mentioned, is that you have the your invoices are on time, because if it's submitted after that deadline, they don't have to take your invoice until the next month. So when Whitney mentioned cash flow and using that to determine your financial health, if you submit an invoice late, now if your payment terms were net 30, they just became net 60 because they can't submit that invoice until the next billing cycle. So you can't even like get recourse for that because you didn't follow the instructions. So you don't have leverage there. It's due by that date. Even if it's wrong, as long as they have it by that date, they can go back and forth with you. But if they don't have it by then you pretty much won't get submitted for that cycle. They'll assume you're not submitting an invoice for that period. So you want to really be clear on what is required to submit with your invoices every month. So so Whitney, when you talk about submitting the invoice and all of those documents, how does that help you to build a pipeline or even make you more competitive for loans and lines of credit when you can predict your cash flow? How does that forecast help?
So it's showing timely billing and timely payments as well. So that's one of the big things that, going back to corporate America, that a lot of the larger firms had an issue with. So the banks want to see when you're billing and when you're actually collecting the money. They don't want to see the bad debt write-offs. They don't want to see that you have 60 to 90, over 90, over 120. So basically it's just being diligent with making sure, again, like Zon's saying, that when you're sending out invoices that they are accurate so that you're able to either meet your net day, whether it's a due upon receipt, is a net 30, a net 10, meeting your net days that are due. So that helps with the bank looking at that the company is able to have cash flow coming in.
Mm-hmm. And I think it also could help with projecting your hiring. So as
Correct.
you're building up your team for different jobs, if you want to staff up and get people in training and all of that so that they can maybe get ready to get on a job you have coming up, you want to have enough in reserves to project that out to know how much you can pay, how much you'll have coming in. So all of it ties together. So we can't be so focused on bidding and getting the job and then doing the job. We need to definitely have some folks on the team that are dedicated to managing the back office. And I know when you're starting out, it can be expensive or seem like it's expensive, but in the long run, it's necessary. And you want to have someone that can help you navigate that information and someone that's thinking about it all the time. I think that's what's important. We talk a lot about business owners working in the business and on the business. And there's a lot of opportunity to get some of those, get some support. Whitney talked about her company, and we'll share that information as well. And there are folks out there that do this all day that can help you to streamline these activities so that your business is set up successfully. Tiffany?
Okay, yes, thank you. I have a quick question. I know I missed maybe like the first 5 or 10 minutes trying to get in, but I was wondering if maybe after this, if we can receive maybe like an outline of what's quote unquote considered the back office, maybe sort of like bullet points so we can be thinking about those and kind of setting up our back end processes to support what you all believe is considered, all the back office. I really appreciate this because it is giving me a variety of additional things to think about. But I'm also like, okay, it'd be nice if I can have like an outline of what's considered back office and some of the, basic things to be thinking about, and then being able to add to that, however my business unfolds. So that'd be nice if we can get maybe like an outline, a couple bullet points of what's considered the overall back office.
Thank you. Whitney's nodding.
Thank
Yes,
you.
she can get that out to you. So we'll go ahead and send that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Whitney, do you want to also elaborate on the pros and cons of the different legal entities? I know you briefly had a slide on the different structures of LLC, single member, all that. And I know there are a lot of YouTube videos out there that say, oh, you should definitely have an S corp, or you should definitely have this or that. What do you, how can you kind of give us the pros and cons of which tax structure or legal structure is most appropriate?
So I think it depends on your revenue. So if you're looking at your sole proprietor, and your LLC, so basically a sole proprietor, that means that you can almost like commingle. You shouldn't commingle, but basically you're a freelancer. When it comes down to an LLC, that is a separate entity, but the sole proprietor and the LLC, the single member LLC, you're filing that with your personal return. So for those who don't want that tax liability with their personal return, that's something that you need to consider. When you're filing an S corp, that is a separate return, but you do get a K-1. So a lot of people are switching to that option, but I think honestly, it's something that you have to figure out what your company structure is. So I don't think there are too many pros and cons, I would say, for the Schedule C. A lot of people look at it because they don't want to take that hit. But with the K-1 as well, you do have to pay taxes on a K-1 as well. And that's the same with an 1120 if you are a dual member LLC. So those are just small things. I think it's basically depending on the structure who all you have working with you. If you have shareholders, if you have several members that are partnering with you. But one of the things is that if you are an S corp or you are an LLC, you do have to consider payroll options. A lot of people try to escape that, and not pay themselves, or pay themselves under the table, or they try to just finagle their way through the system. So I am not a payroll expert, so I would not deep dive into that, but that is something when you start going into filing as an S corp or as a dual member LLC, you definitely need to look at those options because the IRS is also looking at that as well.
Thank you for that. And I think you made a great point. It's something that I think comes up a lot with folks that maybe started their business as like 1099 and they were just doing it as a contractor, freelancing, and then they grew the business more, maybe did an LLC or a DBA as a sole proprietor. And so there's so many different levels. And as you grow and as things become more complex, you definitely want to look at what are the different options that are out there for you. So definitely reach out to a tax professional, and I always say your lawyer, your accountant, and get that kind of figured out based on how your business is structured. I saw, I think Ada asked about supplies and Pedro mentioned that as well. Supplies are an excellent way to keep revenue going in a contractor's business. When you are having slow times and things like that, I always really recommend folks to have a supply division, a maintenance division, and a projects division for construction, because big construction projects come and go. Steady maintenance jobs are always happening and supplies are always happening. And those are some ways to kind of keep revenue flowing. But when you start selling goods and services, it becomes a little bit more complex in how those transactions are structured and taxed and all that stuff. So you just want to, as you grow your business strategically, make sure your lawyers and accountants and everybody understands how the business is functioning, and that way they can give you the best advice. also don't be embarrassed if you don't have any money, that you can't say that you're making money. I really want to encourage folks, because I know how, like, working with a lot of contractors, and especially, no offense to my guy friends out here, but guys especially kind of feel very vulnerable when you're sharing your financial information. And so don't be afraid to ask for help. There are lots of resources out here. The Contractor Development Program has contract-based financing as resources, as well as the bonding program, which requires access to your business credit score, your financials, and things like that. Don't let those requirements stop you from getting bonded, or getting the insurance you need, or getting lines of credit that you need. If you need cash flow for a project, there are tons of resources out here. Mecklenburg County has MEC Lending that has very, very reasonable rates for poor credit business owners. And so you just really want to make sure that you are exploring those resources and not being too prideful to ask for help. And when you do start this journey, your books are going to be ugly. Because you didn't do anything to make it better, right? And so doing something and taking that step is going to be great. So I really would encourage you to get those things cleaned up. This is September. We have 3 more months this year. Like, you can make those changes in your processes and things like that. Like Tiffany mentioned, having the outline would be a great place to start. I wrote any other questions, and I'm thinking of questions as we go. Okay. When, in your experience, how soon should someone be making profit in their business, to that they can show like that they've been having a good track record?
So
Or
again, it goes back to the type of business. But in theory, they said it can take 5 years to show a profit. So you can have a really great year the first year, and then you can be in a pitfall for 2 years. So it can be kind of an up and down for a couple years, and then it levels out. But in theory, and based off the IRS, after that, you should not be at risk for, your company closing after 5 years.
That's a great metric. How many folks on this call have a business younger than 5 years? Great. So we have some hurdles to overcome on the call, but it's basically, the data suggests after you meet that 5-year mark, then you should be successful, or you should be able to be profitable. And it really is about taking in information like this and applying it. Because sometimes we go to all these classes and then we don't do any of the stuff that we learn. So we have to actually take the steps, take the initiative, and you're the boss, right? All of you all are bosses that I'm seeing the names of. And so if it's not happening, it's not happening because, we're not making it happen. My niece used to say, don't not make it happen. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. And it's okay to recognize that, you're part of the problem and you can clean it up. So there's still time to do that. What are some of your, and I'm asking this to the group, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen with paperwork not being in order, and how has it affected your business?
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Whitney, for doing this tonight. I really appreciate it. Yes, what I was just about to type into the chat, but it's a full-time job to get organized and to act on all the advisement. I'm not new to having my own business, but this business that I have now is new to me. And it is terrifying and exciting all at once. To be doing this and yet feel like you're operating in the dark. It's like, what do I do next? I know the importance of bookkeeping finding a good bookkeeper is my biggest challenge before I even started this business. So, you know, I think whenever people such as yourselves or professionals such as yourself offer checklists and things like that, that you just have to bite the bullet and just start with one of them. You know, whatever seems to be the easiest is just to take that step. And I will say that, you know, I have sat in your seats, you know, where, you know, I've been on the other side of this in another lifetime. And, you know, and I know that you want us all to be successful because that's, you know, that makes you, you know, it makes you happy. It makes you feel fulfilled that you've done, you know, what you set out to do. On my end, sitting in the seat now, it is, oh my gosh, what do I do? And who can I call to help me understand what this means? So I think anything, however accessible any of you can be, that's just like a gift to really help motivate at least somebody like me to stay motivated. Today, the biggest challenge to your question, my biggest challenge right now is responsiveness from insurance brokers. I've been awarded a very small government project, and it's not going to be a difficult project, but I need workers' compensation and I need general liability. And it's just like, I've been working on getting quotes for over 2 weeks after I got the word that I was, you know, that I had been selected. I'm beside myself because I'm afraid that the owner of the project is going to write me, you know, they'll just terminate the award and give it to the next person on the list. So that's my challenge, is just responsiveness from other vendors.
Looks like you got a referral in the chat there.
I was gonna say, I just posted Joel with Snyder Insurance. So another classmate in the program, she actually gave me his contact information, and he's very responsive. So I have like all my insurances with him. I don't know where you're located, but I never met him before, but he is here in the Charlotte area. And I know there's others that people might be able to recommend as well that are responsive, but he's
Thank
very
you.
responsive, and he's also helped me fill out insurance forms that I needed to add to like a bid. So yeah, try Joel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. And congratulations.
Oh,
That's a
thank
big
you.
deal.
I'm excited. And then I'm like, oh my God, cool. Somebody just like help me get this insurance thing out of my
It's like, give me a hug and let me cry, and then I'm gonna go do it really quick. Like,
yes.
all the feelings. Great. That's
40 minutes ago, before this meeting started, I was out in the hallway and I was like, I am not going to cry. I am not going to cry.
you got it. You got it. It's crazy. I actually had a similar situation. I've had insurance for years, and we just got a new project that, for whatever reason, their risk department said we need to have insurance as if we're a construction company, an engineering firm, and a consulting company. So I had to get something called social engineering insurance, which I never heard of, which is executive ransom insurance. And it's different from regular cyber security. It is if someone like sends an email to an executive at our company and says, give me the bank account information, or I'm going to post naked pictures of you online. It's a very specific type of insurance. And I was like, what? And that's what we had to get. And there are only 2 companies I could find in the country that offer it. So we just got all of our insurances done yesterday. It's been 6 weeks of trying to get everything done. But anyway, so more power to you. Thanks for sharing that challenge. It looks like Pedro said, and Ada also added someone in the chat for you. Pedro said workman's comp audits are his biggest challenge. Tell us a little bit about that, Pedro, if you don't mind unmuting.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, yeah, so workers' comp audits have been the biggest pain in the butt for us, just because we have so many different subs throughout the year that come and go. And then we have to get, comply with our audits once a year. Then we're scrambling, trying to get everybody's certificates of insurance, and then realizing some of them, let it lapse. Then sometime between that year of the policy period, you might have asked them up front at the beginning, but then throughout your calendar year it might have expired and they never renewed it, and then you continue doing business with them, and now you're at an audit, you're audited, and now you have penalties and fines because of that. So that's just what I've found to be difficult for the back office, trying to manage all of that, as well as the invoicing and everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I don't know if anyone has any, Whitney, if you have any tips on how to manage that, and then Tiffany, I'm like, yeah, that sounds horrible. And then Tiffany.
Oh, Whitney, were you gonna go first? Oh, well, one thing I was gonna ask Pedro, is there a system that you collect like all your, like, say for instance, onboarding a subcontractor? Because I'm in the process of trying to try to think about like how to onboard and making sure I have those COIs captured, because I know different systems I'm using, like QuickBooks, will, I think they do, I think you can get like their W-9s and then potentially their COIs. Another system that I'm using, Melio, I know they capture W-9s, but like ultimately, do you have a system where you can capture that up front when you're onboarding someone that a new subcontractor that you're working with? And if not, does anybody have recommendations for us for being able to collect that information?
Oh,
No, I just asked for it upfront and save it, but
Mhm.
managing that as well as everything else, that falls through the cracks a lot.
Okay.
I was gonna say in a previous lifetime, like Melanie said, I used to manage labor procurement, and so we use a system called ISNet World, which is really expensive, but basically it was a glorified Excel spreadsheet where new vendors had to submit their risk assessment. So we had a checklist for them, like their ladder safety, their OSHA stuff, and they had to basically create a folder, and they had to put all those documents in there. And then we had one of our office admins that basically just took the COI and took the expiration date and used the formula in Excel and did it should turn yellow 60 days before this day. And then she just sent emails requesting the new one. Like it was pretty kind of manual, I guess, at that point, but that was our way of kind of managing that. So
Does QuickBooks have, I'm sorry does QuickBooks have that feature where, like, if you have a new sub that you onboard and they give you, your all the documents up front, can you, I don't know, tailor that account and put the workers' comp policy date of expiration to alert you, like you said, 60 days prior to expiration? Is that possible in QuickBooks?
I don't think so. I know because they're considered a subcontractor, and depending on if like what type of subcontractor they are, it gets a W-9. And it may actually house the COIs, but it doesn't have the capability to let you know, like, hey, it was sent on this day and it expires on this day. That's going to be more like Zon was saying, something else like an interactive spreadsheet that you would have to manage, or have someone else manage in order to see when those expire.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
Googling it, looks like Procore has it and something called DocuTrax. So there are a few different resources online that could help with that. Yes, Melanie Faye.
I checked in with that Procore. If you're not at a $3 to $5 million revenue, their beginning package for first-time users starts out at $10,000 a year. I'm just trying to create a budget for, with the expectations of how much it's going to cost to be organized. And I was going to ask Whitney as well, I'm sorry, it was something that Pedro said. Okay, so about the certificates of insurance or tracking that. Okay, in QuickBooks, I'm just trying to think of how to phrase this question. If you have a subcontractor in there, like as a contact, is there a way to set reminders in QuickBooks that, whenever you're entering maybe a subcontractor for the first time and you've got their contact information in there, that you can put a note in there that you collected an active COI and that it expires? Does QuickBooks allow you to set like calendar reminders to pop up?
So initially I said no, but I just Googled it. So one of the cool things about QuickBooks is they have apps. So if anyone has QuickBooks, on the left-hand side, which is like your menu bar, they have, it's like a black toolbar. So it'll show like applications, integrations. So it looks like it says, yes, QuickBooks can be used to track certificates of insurance. And it looks like it says it's a manual process that can be added to your dashboard. So I'm going to send a screenshot to the chat. So it looks like there's 3 integrations that can be added to your QuickBooks to track this. So it's like an app that you just add to your current subscription. I'm going to screenshot it and put it in the chat. And this should allow you all to house everything in one place, which definitely could help you, Pedro, with workman's comp, because everything could be housed in one location.
That will be a grand slam if you could teach me how to do that.
Okay, I'm going to send you this screenshot now.
Let's see. Awesome, thank you. That was a great question. Did anyone else have a question? I was trying to think about the workman's comp side of it, but I don't think it could go that far. But like you were saying, at least the having the insurance would be a big piece of that to make sure that you're tracking that. Awesome. What are some of the other challenges that folks are having with just back office, managing taxes? I know there's also a new North Carolina like compliance requirement that started this year. That's like a 50-page document that I'm sure everybody read and is very familiar with. And
Detail. What?
I forgot I think it has something to do with them cracking down on Cash App type transactions.
Oh. It's
But-
not that BOI,
I was getting ready to say the BOI is coming up too for a lot of people who have not started that process. And yeah.
Yeah, you have
What's the
90
BOI
days.
process?
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a business owner's information. If
Mhm.
you
So
have-
it's If you have dual members, it's a reporting now that you have to file, and it can be $500 per day penalty, up to $10,000.
Right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And it
And you
accrues,
have to
yeah.
file by December.
Well, if you're an established business before 2024, I think you have
Right.
until December. But if you formed a business this year, which I have one that was formed many years ago, but the one that I'm like stressing over right now, I just formed legally in June, and you have 90 days. You have 90 days after you form in 2024. So I've been like, like my consciousness was constantly thinking about, okay, how many more weeks do I have? And then finally I just had one day, it was just like, I'm just doing this. It went faster than I expected, but it's a booger. It's a lot of reading.
So is it more ethical compliance or is it more tax compliance or what?
No, it's just another homeland security type of issue where they're just wanting to track small businesses for money laundering practices.
Got it.
That's really all it's about, is just Big Brother.
Oh, how we love him.
Mhm.
Okay.
At $500 a day or more. And
Right.
I've been reading about some banks that were hit with like a $10 million fine, and there's no negotiating out of it. You just pay it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sharice?
Hi, yes, I'm Sharice Williams. I'm with Grounded Landscape, installation and maintenance for residential and commercial here in LA, California. And I'm grateful for everything you guys are saying. And unfortunately, those of you who've had heartaches, it's teaching me something right now, because my business wants to be what your business is when it grows up. We have not gotten awarded any contracts on the state or city level, but that's our goal. And yeah, the word workers' comp comes up a lot. So now I know to get ahead of that. Thank you for that situation that you guys brought up. But I guess more so my struggle is I'm doing everything via Excel document, trying to keep track, and I'm losing steam, and then it gets overwhelming. And then now I'm so behind that I just kind of gave up on it. And the idea was, oh, I took accounting for 3 years in college and I got this, I can do it. I don't have to hire anyone or pay anybody. We don't have any income to pay somebody. And I was gonna choose between QuickBooks and Waze. And I'm like, okay, Waze is free unless you get the little $16 upgraded one. And I hear, I've done QuickBooks before. It seemed very complicated. Waze, so it's sitting on the fence going, which one do I do? We don't have income to support a bookkeeper and or the software right now. So being on that fence has now gotten me blocked or paralyzed. And would you suggest, based on our income and being a new company, because I understand you can't, once I start Waze, because it's free, I can't then transfer to QuickBooks, which I probably want to do at some point.
So if you want to start in QuickBooks, I would start in QuickBooks. QuickBooks always runs promotions. So talking to a sales rep to tell them like, hey, I want to try it. So depending on how big your business is, you can start at the basic level. You do not have to start at like the plus or advanced. Start at like a simple start. Again, I don't get paid by QuickBooks at all, but you're able to manage it from your phone. You're able to manage it on your computer. Some of these, they have really strict capabilities where you can manage your books from. So if you're on the go, and you actually need to create an invoice, you're able to do that. So I just got a notification recently that now they're giving out the little taps where basically you can take payments on the go. That's very helpful for people who are out in the field and they're not wanting to take Cash App, they're not wanting to take Zelle. That is very helpful. So you have the app on your phone, you're able to process the invoice, you're able to track all of that on the go. So I like QuickBooks. QuickBooks is very intuitive. They do have a great staff of people to actually help you walk through it. So right now, if you're not able to afford a bookkeeper, they will walk you through how to set up your books. So I will say that. So that's something where you're managing it, but you don't have to take on that stress yourself. You can set it up. If you have trouble where it's starting to look a little wonky, they'll tell you like this shouldn't look that way. They're not going to walk you step by step, but they're going to help guide you in the right direction.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
No problem.
And something Whitney taught me was if you do your budget in Excel, you can upload it to QuickBooks and it will then track your forecast based on what your annual budget was too. So you can still play around in Excel for planning purposes and then leverage the tool. Pedro.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to say that that's exactly how I started, how Whitney described. I started with the basic, and then like a year or two later, I upgraded to the plus. Also, I didn't have like a bookkeeper, but when I did upgrade and I was able to add the bookkeeper, they were able to go back. I don't remember how far they went back, a year or two, and clean up all the books from prior year, and they're right on the app. Like you could click and search bookkeeper certified bookkeepers in your area right from QuickBooks, and you could shop around. Some of them have higher like degree levels or certification levels, and you could shop around in your area for a bookkeeper when you're ready to upgrade, and they could go back and clean up all your books from previous years, if that helps.
I have a
Thank-
question.
Thank you. Tiffany?
Okay, so I'm wondering about like, because I don't have a bookkeeper, but I'm always interested in understanding how they get in there and then they clean it up. Like how do they clean it, not really knowing like what stuff is? Because I feel like each month when I go in, I'm trying to remember what stuff is and tagging it and whatever I'm trying to do in there or whatever. But how do you clean it?
Hashtag PTSD.
So I'm gonna say this coming from an accountant. And I work with a lot of people's books. I am the type of person that I am hands-on. Some bookkeepers assume what the transactions are.
Okay.
You want a bookkeeper or accountant who is going to be engaged with you to say, hey, this looks different. So if you have like Spectrum, Duke, things like that, that are, I would say like your reoccurring common sense transactions, they're going to know that those are your utilities.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if you have different things like you are doing like landscaping, you're buying supplies that are coming from different areas, they need to ask you. So it shouldn't be where they're just coding them and they could be under meals, but technically it was travel. So that's something where it definitely needs to be a conversation where you and the bookkeeper and accountant need to have open communication and not just assumptions, because technically they should not go ghost and just do your books and say it's cleaned up. There needs to be constant communication to say, we're working on this together, because they don't know how you're swiping your card day to day for your business. They're there to assist you, but they're not there to actually do everything for you.
So I was also wondering, like, when I do upgrade to the project, the plan that includes the capabilities per project, do bookkeepers drill down into like each project too and clean, like not cleaning, but like helping categorize things per project, or should you still be doing that?
They can. It depends on it is based on, so when you assign an accountant to your QuickBooks, they basically have full capability except for like administrative. So they have like full rights. So they're able to go in and assign something to a project if needed. So if it's something that goes back and it should have been assigned to a project, if there's costs, labor, expenses, reimbursables, things like that, they're able to attach that to a project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm also wondering, like, when things come in, because I'm still like kind of fairly new to QuickBooks. But yeah, like once I get to the project level, I feel like I have to monitor that like probably daily to make sure I'm accounting for what went to what project.
So I wouldn't say daily. It depends on the capacity of expenses that you have coming in.
Mhm.
So if you have a tremendous amount, I would say daily. Weekly, knowing that I would say it is yours, weekly would probably be best so that you're also not overwhelming yourself and giving yourself a bottleneck effect. Because
Uh-huh.
again, you all are doing everything. So it's gonna still be fresh on your mind to look at it within a week.
Mhm.
To say, okay, this is what it is. And two, QuickBooks, they have something called a rule. So
Yeah.
basically, it's like, again, if you manage your reoccurring expenses, that allows you to manage your project related expenses. So
Mhm.
you're kind of eliminating that human error potential by doing that and just working on the project related expenses. So it may be minimal, but yes, when it starts becoming excessive where you're working on several, then yes, definitely daily. But I think weekly is suffice too, so that you're not overwhelming yourself by looking in the system too much.
Okay, so I did want to pose a question to Pedro, since I know he's using QuickBooks and he has multiple projects. How do you approach that, Pedro, with your different projects in QuickBooks?
To answer your question, Tiffany, I have the upgraded package. I don't know what it's called now.
Uh-huh.
But every time I have a new project, after it's active and I deem it an active project, I start a project folder, and every transaction is recorded on that project name. So let's say I'm at a big box store and I'm picking up some materials. When I swipe my card or I order it from whatever lumber package,
Mhm.
and then at the end of the month, at the end of the month, the accountant is like, hey, what are these transactions for? I just go in and I put the job name or number that I associated to that project, and I let them do their job because that's what I'm paying them for. And they go in and they assign all the transactions to the jobs. The only thing I'm doing is looking at the transactions and assigning the job name that I assigned to it when I started the job.
Okay, and when you say the folder, is the folder in QuickBooks or
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Okay.
So there's another tab when you upgrade. There's like I think it's called project. There's a
Okay.
new tab. There's like an additional feature tab where it
Okay.
keeps track of all your projects. The thing I like about it is at the end of the project, it tells you how much you made on it. It tells you what your profit margin is.
Hmm.
Then on the next similar project, you can say, hey, all right, so on the last one that was similar to that, at the end, my profit was whatever it is. If you want to, to increase it, you can increase it, or if you want to decrease, you could decrease it too. If you wanted
Okay.
to increase more projects, you can see how you're doing on your performance based on
Okay.
all the information that they put in it.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that example too. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem.
That sounds like a really cool feature. That's something we used to use in our project management toolkit was a burn rate chart. And so basically we had what our projections were for that project. And then we were looking at if we were burning at the rate that we anticipated this is for consulting and project management, more services, but it's the same concept when you're looking at how you did your bid and how much profit you thought you were going to make and how that was mapped out over the course of 3 months on the project or however long, and how you actually did with collecting that. Did you end up working more hours than you expected and all that? So that's really helpful to get you the data so that when you bid again, hey, I totally underbid myself. I totally didn't account for how much research it was going to take to do this. I didn't account for trip time. I didn't account for some of the logistics planning on this job, so certain things like that. So you want to look at that. And full disclosure, Whitney is my new bookkeeper. We actually met through one of the organizations in the Charlotte area, Metroline and Minority Contractors Association. And so networking is really important for that. And so this is the first month that I could sleep through the night because all of our invoices went out on time for the first time in 2024. So shout out for that. And thanks to for all of her help. And something I learned with doing that cleanup process was I spent a lot of money with Amazon. I'm sure a lot of you all might. So I would really suggest that setting up the Amazon Business Prime account as a separate account, and not just because of the separate financials, even though I'm sure your accountant will thank you for separating for that, but there are discounts associated with it. But just during the cleanup process, I had to request all of the Amazon transactions that I've ever had, and they can send you an Excel file of everything you've spent with them, whether it's Audible, digital downloads. Like, they had everything since I was in college listed on this spreadsheet from this report. I was like, first of all, I spent way too much money on Amazon, but I could break down each transaction. So if something, was something I bought for the house and supplies I bought for the business, I could break those transactions up and actually see how much money was actually spent on that thing. So if you ended up mixing or commingling a purchase on Amazon or something, you can actually request that file. It took like 5 days for them to send it, but then all the data was there. So just as you clean up your stuff, something to think about.
I have a question,
Yes.
real quick. If you have a home office and you buy supplies like cleaning supplies and stuff like that for the home and the office, do you write that off as an office expense?
That's tricky. So I think you have to, so if you have like a half bathroom, you have to have a bathroom that you use for customers. You would take a percentage of the supplies, not 100%. So it's like you're using your home, like a portion of your home, you would take a percentage or that square footage, and then, the common area, I guess, like in the bathroom, so that the customers can get to the bathroom, whatever. So like when you buy water, if it's specific for customers, you write that off 100%. But if you're buying water for the house and you split it.
No, what if you don't have, like, you have a home office, you don't have customers, you don't meet with customers in your home office, but you still have a home office? What about like utilities and your internet bill that you need to operate the business? You got to have light and things like that to operate the home office. So by default, do those utility bills get passed down to the business, or how does that work?
What is your business? Is it a S corp? Is it a LLC?
S corp, S corp.
Okay, so a percentage of that should be, when they're doing your taxes, they should be asking for a portion of your rent, utilities, and like insurance. So like if you have a mortgage, they should be getting your 1098 so that they can write off a portion of your interest. And then if you're renting, you should be giving them the total of rent and your renter's insurance. So they should be claiming a percentage, but that's based on the percentage of the house you're using for the business.
Thank you.
So it's based on the square footage you're using for the business that they write off.
That makes sense, because they ask, like, if for the dimensions of the home office
Mm-hmm.
and then the dimensions of the house, and they take a ratio of that and to write that off of your expenses.
Right.
Okay, so that's done on that back end. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just want to say, if anybody's got a bookkeeper that's not talking to them, just fire them and find somebody that will. I have one bad story, and I hired someone, I took on someone who was a friend of a friend. And I asked for meetings monthly. I said, if you ever have any questions, schedule a time with me to meet, like either every Monday or Tuesday of every week. Set aside at least 1 hour every week that you're talking to me. That, you know, that's just our time. I could never get them to do that ever. And I let it go. Then I was like, at least once a month, you know, just once a month. If you're, you know, working on my transactions, I'm not a complicated, this was not the business that I'm doing right now, but, you know, I didn't have a complicated business, you know, just asking for, okay, once a month, when you're doing the bank reconciliation, don't ask me to categorize all of these things, because these transactions happen all the time. You can look backwards, you know, you can look at how was this done in a prior period. But I am happy to, you know, 1 hour a week, bring those to me. It got to where when it's time to file the tax return, your business tax return, whether you do that before April 1st, I said, by December 31st, you need to have all questions to me about my accounts. You know, don't wait until January, February, March, and do not wait until 2 weeks before April 15th. So they never could get into the cycle. And about 4 weeks before April 15th, 1 year, they sent me a spreadsheet of all the questions that they had. You know, they had exported all the things out of QuickBooks that were questionable. You know, where did this go? And I looked at the dates. I had like 5 months worth of transactions that they were expecting me to go through so that they could clean up my books. So that's the nightmare story from hell. So if they're not talking to you and they're your friends, hug them, kiss them, get them a gift, get them a bottle of wine, fire them, find somebody else before you fire them. But just don't let it drag on. That's not good.
So on that note, like, you want to have your books basically trued up by December. But in addition to that, there's something called estimated taxes. So again, depending on how you're filing your business, some people are proactive with making estimated payments. Some people wait and pay the whole tax bill at one time. But if, again, you're looking at your profit monthly or quarterly, you're able to estimate your payments to say, okay, this is allowing me to gauge how much I'm going to have to pay. But if you're not truly getting a clear picture of your profit, it's going to be a surprise when you file your taxes. So you may get hit with a penalty and then a large tax bill as well.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you know, like Melanie said, being proactive to at least have everything done by, I say mine is like the 15th of January. And that's basically us trying to fine tune everything so that anything that needs to be done is going to be done by April 15th. But it's not where they're going to say, I didn't know this was going to be my tax bill, something is off, things like that. But that's also protecting your business from anything that is going to cause you any additional money.
And if you have a good bookkeeper who's reconciling your bank statements at the end of every month, you know, I think having a policy where that's done within the first 10 days of the following month, like by the 10th day of the next month after that bank statement has come out. Because, you know, if you're wanting to grow your business, I mean, you know, if I want to make an informed decision about something that I want to purchase for my business, I have dreams. It's, you know, trying to project into the future, you know, and it's like, if I don't have a balance sheet, you know, if I don't have a balance sheet or, you know, my financial statements delivered once a month at some period by the 15th of the following month or whatever, I don't know where I stand. It's like, how much money? And yes, I can go in and I can look at my bank accounts every day and I can see that flow of money going in and out and have an idea. Well, you know, I got X number of dollars still in the bank or savings or whatever. But truly, you know, if you want to hire someone to help you, to free you up to make more money doing something else, you know, having those bank reconciliations done every month before you even get to the end of the year, you know, I've had to pay penalties. I'll tell you, I've been through the ringer. And I don't want to go that way again with this new business. It's like, I'm really trying to stay on top of it. And, you know, if Whitney wants to give me a quote on her services, I'll be glad to consider it.
Yeah, we've all have horror stories, so it's like getting through it, and getting it cleaned up, getting a process going, like you said, making those decisions to say, I want to get this done with 10 days at the end of the month. I want to get invoices out by the second week of the month, whatever that looks like for you, so that you can sleep better at night. I think that's great. We're a little over time, but I saw Pedro had a question, and then we'll wrap up.
No, it wasn't it was just more of a comment on what Melanie Faye was saying. I started implementing a rule this year: only do business with friends or family one a year, you know, because it usually never ends up well. So I do, let's say, only one a year. I'm gonna give it like that's my pro bono. All right, once a year, and that's it, because the rest of it is not gonna work. It never ends out well. To
Yes,
me,
Skinner's man.
Pedro.
Friends are friends, but business is business.
yeah,
I was saying
agreed.
all the cliches are true. No friends, no friends and family. Hire slow, fire fast. All of it's true. All right. Well, thank you so much, Whitney, for sharing with us and answering the questions. This is great. This is definitely something that I know is a topic that a lot of folks have questions about. So excited to get the PowerPoints and outlines and any resources you want to share. And Jason and I will make sure that we get that out to the folks that registered. Jason's also putting a survey in the chat. So please click that link and answer the survey so that we can get some feedback on this this webinar. And we hope that this is very helpful to you. We can also send that link to you in an email as well. So go ahead and get that going, and stay dry and safe if you're in Charlotte, and have fun in LA if you're having great weather. I don't know the weather there.
Not too bad. But
And
yes,
if you
thank you again,
aren't
everybody.
enrolled in the programs, please make sure that you look at the LA programs and the Charlotte programs. These are awesome for new contractors to get resources, insurance, bonding, training, coaching sessions like this. So just please get connected to the programs. And thank you so much.
Thank you all.